Morning, everyone. Hope you will enjoy your day eventfully. I'm going to discuss some things on a scientific level from an author. This woman existential physics, Sabine Hossenfelder. Sabine Hossenfelder, she's a physicist. We can discuss certain things about her, some of the things that she said. She is presently a research fellow at the Frankfurt Institute for Advanced Studies in Germany, and has published more than 8 research articles about the foundation of physics. She has written about physics for a broad audience for 15 years and is the creator of the popular YouTube channel Science Without the Gobbledygoo. Her writing has been published in the New Scientific American, the New York Times, and the Guardian, London. Her first book, Lost in Math: How Beauty Leads Physics Astray, appeared in 2018. I'm going to look at some of the things that you said about free will. Free will. This lady, she eat, breathe. Everything about her is physics, man. Everything about her is physics. The glasses she wears, the lens in which she interprets all things, her worldview, everything. The universe means everything. It means so much to her till it means everything to her. She can't see nothing. She can't understand nothing apart from physics. But before, there's this other scientist that was having a conversation with a Christian theist. He wrote a book. The Christian theist is Stephen C. Myers, and Stephen C. Myers wrote a book, Return of the God Hypothesis. So both of them were having a discussion, and they were having a discussion about naturalistic theology and reductionism and evolutionary materialism. You know, you have people that believe that what they see, the design, even though the design in nature is obvious, they would say it have an appearance, but it's not an actual design, just to get around this God hypothesis. And reductionism is that everything is physical. Physicalism, physicism, just material, just strict radical materialism. Everything is physical, nothing, no other component to it. So they were there talking, and the scientist asked the Christian theist, he asked him to explain how he had come to believe in God. And the Christian theist began to account how he had become convinced as an undergraduate in philosophy, courses on theism, best account for the reliability of the mind. You know, the reliability of the mind is one of the most fundamental thing that has to be there. It has to be intact in order for us to understand anything or to even do science. So if it is a byproduct of evolutionary process, then Would you trust it? Would you think it would be a reliable mechanism to see what actually there? Would we trust such a thing? Did we, in real life, do we trust anything that happened fortuitously, happened by chance, randomly? No. We wouldn't trust a doctor that just willy-nilly just do anything he wants. He think that's right. He think that's the best medication for you without any kind of knowledge pertaining to being a doctor. Just by, you know, come up and just say he's a doctor and just do what he want to do. You know, we wouldn't. Right? And so, the thesis, as he started to explain the argument from epistological necessity. When we talk about the word epistemology, we're talking about how we come to know and the limit of human knowledge and stuff like that. Epistemological necessity is as to do with the necessity of the epistemological foundation. You know, this is foundational to us knowing anything. It's a must. We have to have these epistemological aspect in order to come to know anything. He politely so while the Christian theist was explaining, then the scientists intervene and disrupt him and say, there's no question that theism solves a lot of philosophical problems. He then told, so this is what he's saying to the Christian theist. The Christian theist is saying this about him. He then told me a bit more about his philosophical sensibility, explaining that he simply lacks. So this is what the scientist is telling the Christian theist. He told the Christian theist that he lacks an innate sensus divinitatis. Sensus divinitatis is a Latin for a sense of God. You know, every human being is created with this. We have a sense of God. We know intuitively that there has to be some higher, some people say higher power, and something like that. But some higher being, you know, we just intuitively know within our being, within our soul, that there has to be. He said he lacks that. And further, he actually didn't want the universe to be a kind of place in which God exists. That's it. Scientists. I want atheism. This is what he's saying. I want atheism to be true, and I'm made uneasy by the fact that some of the most intelligent and well-informed people I know are religious believers. So the fact that a lot of scientists is coming to believing in God, making very uneasy and uncomfortable. It isn't just that I don't believe in God, and naturally hope that I am right in my belief. Didn't want God to exist. It is that I hope there is no God. You hope that there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that. This is a scientist saying you don't want him to be a God. I hope that there is no God. I think eventually come to believe in a God, but this is what he was saying before he come to acknowledge that there's a God. I don't want him to be. I don't want anyone to talk about the universe on God. I refuse to believe that when we're studying the universe, I don't want to come to the understanding that there's a God. And so this lady now, she doesn't believe that any one of us have free will. She doesn't believe that. She thinks free will is an illusion. It's not real. Everything, the universe is all that was, the universe is all that is, and the universe is all that shall be. This is what she believes. And she quote people like Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. The best self-contradiction that has been conceived so far, I am with Nietzsche. That's what I believe. For your will to be free, it should not be caused by anything else. But if it wasn't caused by anything, if it isn't an uncaused cause, so she tried to separate moral responsibility and moral accountability from free will, because there's no free will. You can be as moral, but you can't be you can't be a morally free agent. The only thing within the universe, the only thing within reality itself that is uncaused is God. God is the uncaused cause of everything. No man, God can't even cause himself. This is nonsense talking that. There's no such thing as self-cause. It can't be a self-caused being. In order for you to cause yourself, you have to exist prior to yourself in order to cause yourself to be. So it's a nonsense talk. Self-cause action or self-determined action is a different thing. All my action is caused by me. All your action is caused by you. It is stated that God created the fact of freedom, but we created the acts of freedom. This is where sin is. The fact of freedom is a good thing. It's a good thing. Freedom is a good thing, that because God created it, so it's a good thing. But what we do with it, we use it to do evil. We choose to do a lot of evilous things, wicked things with it. It is another field of itself. Now, a lot has to do with freedom of choice. And when we're talking about Arminianism and Calvinism believe in creaturely freedom, doesn't believe in that manner of absolute freedom or your freedom. I might like especially when it come on to do righteous things, to do good things, to do, we're chained. They talk about the bondage of the will. So we hate things that pertain to God. We rather do what the choose to do. We don't have the I wouldn't say the proclivity, but the predisposition to do good things, like to go after the things that are holy and righteous and things that are pleasing to God. We are lawless, and we're radically lawless creatures because of our depraved nature, and so we tend to do things that are contrary to God and displeasing to God. And in that sense, the Calvinists believe it creaturely freedom and libertarian freedom and compatibilism, which freedom coexists with determinism, and libertarian freedom, you're free to do anything. You're free to do anything what you want to do. You're not. When we talk about our environment and we talk about people can influence the decision we make, they of course can influence it, but they can't cause it. We are the one. A person we are not cursed. These things cannot be cursed. It doesn't matter the influence we get from outside, environment, and people try to coax us in doing things. We at the end of it, we ultimately make that decision to do, unless we are, the only influence that can coerce to do something has to be some kind of life-threatening circumstances. Someone hold a gun at our head and tell us to do this. And even then we can choose. We have the ability and the power to choose. Otherwise, I'm not going to do that. I don't care. Kill me. You still have that power. So, God's sovereignty and human free will and stuff like that. We are free. And God is sovereign, and we have a moral responsibility and accountability. And not because God is sovereign over all things, take away more accountability and a responsibility. Right? So, the moral actions spring from our free choices, no matter what the purpose of them may be. So you cannot separate morality, a moral accountability and moral responsibility and freedom of choice. You can't. And so this is what this woman wants to do. Everything about what we do with our mind, everything about, a matter of fact, the mind is not a separate entity that correlates with the brain. The body, the mind itself produces, the brain itself produces the mind. And so the mind is nothing but neural connection and synapses, all of these things happen in our brain. That's what our mind is. So our mind is not really a separate entity that correlates with the brain. Somehow it and the brain work with that close, with that, it have that intricate interface. Epiphenomenalism is about that. It's like a substance called shadow. So the mind is like a shadow that the brain casts. And so it falls within, I think it's fall within property dualism. We talk about philosopher deal with that aspect. And so all that we do is, all our action is self-cause. You can have self-cause action, but not self-cause being. Self-cause being is nonsense. It's like you're trying to pull yourself up by your own bootstrap. This is kind of expression they use. You can't pull yourself into existence. You have to exist before yourself to do that to you. But it's just not, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why God can't create another God, because God by definition is infinite and eternal. So God, while God is an uncaused cause, he's eternal. He always is, always shall, always will be. But it can cause something else. It can cause other effects. That's the universe as a phenomenal effect of his mind and the word of his power. So, but this lady he said, if it can't be quantified, if it can't be observed within nature, it contradicts science, because even within the scientific realm itself, she has this tendency to like, want to straighten out some aspect of science. You know, she criticized science hard too, because science make a lot of speculation about things that they don't understand. They look at certain things, even certain things that they don't see, and they try to use mathematics to create a model of certain of what they can see, and then they start to scientize, you know, come up with some kind of scientific explanation and stuff like that. And but she's a kind of woman that she has to see it, and then she try to come up with some mathematical explanation and all of these things to really capture what actually she's saying. And free will and these things are not something that is susceptible to science, so she tried to discount it, explain it away, and said it's unscientific. And since it has no place in the scientific realm, then she won't give much credence to this kind of stuff. I know that when it comes on to consciousness and all of these things, people tend to there's a lot of theories about it. They use theory of relativity to explain this consciousness. They come up with quantum theory. This lady believes that the universe is already fixed. But what I'm saying is, she's denying something that she can't deny, or she chose to be a physicist over something else. She make decision in several years of her life. She chose to marry whether not to marry, choose to have kids, than not to have kids. All of these involve freedom of choice. But for her, she wouldn't want to call it freedom of choice. She believes there's some kind of neural activity taking place that tend to probably determine how she do certain things and when she do certain things. So it always has to do with this whole aspect of neural fire, neural connection in her brain. Nothing outside of her brain that is non-physical can account for anything that she does. That's what she believes. And so she make a lot of, and Sean Carroll is another guy too, just like her, you know. Even the nowness of this present time is an illusion to her. For instance, when she talks, for instance, I have found that abandoning the idea of free will has changed the way I think about thinking. You can't abandon free will and think about and change the way you think about thinking. That's part of what freedom of choice is. She's talking nonsense here. I have begun paying more attention to what we know about the shortcoming of human cognition, logical fallacies and biases, realizing that in the end I am just working away on the input I collect. I have become more selective and careful with what I read and to listen to. This is free will. but it would seem as if she's talking like some AI system. You know, AI system don't have free will and stuff, but they use this human language. They use human language in a metaphorical way. You know, so in her understanding, the human brain is like an algorithm. You know, so like, you know, with algorithm, the AI system work of algorithms. And if you ask a computer how you're feeling today, it's saying, you know, well, I'm not a human being. You can't feel. I don't have self-consciousness. I can just respond to the algorithm I've developed and produce or put in me. You know. And even if we use algorithm in the sense we talk about the algorithm of our mind, it has to be metaphorical, because our brain doesn't use algorithm. Our brain is fundamentally outwardly system that God created, and far beyond any human comprehension, right? Our brain is tissue, you know, it's tissue, but there's something that correlates with the brain that when it works intricately and intimately with the brain. So the mind is not produced by the brain. It's a non-physical entity that works with the brain. It manifests itself through the brain. And so that's why when you think and they put electrodes all over you and you do certain things, you can have that physical impression. They leave that physical impression upon the brain. And people say, well, you damage certain aspect of your brain, and then, but you still, why you can't see or why you can't talk because certain aspect of your brain damage. If the brain isn't all there is, apart from any of this abstract system that we call the mind, because of that correlation between the brain and the mind. That's why. You damage the brain, then it's limit the mind capacity to manifest itself through your brain, right? Because it damages the means by which it experience, mentally independent activity, you know. So that's in philosophy. When you study, you know, the brain, we believe in substance dualism. There's a brain and there's a mind. The brain does not produce the mind. The mind affects the brain. The brain affects the mind. That kind of interaction between both entities. But the mind is something that is far beyond the brain. This is where we think. This is where, you know, all of those thinking of subjective, subconscious, in the subconscious realm, and the subconsciousness, and the intra personal, that's the inner subjective state of fear, you know, inner being. It's all part. Mind is all part of that, right? But you would say she would be she's a reductionist. She's a physicalist and a reductionist. But when she writes, she have that kind of dismissive, condescending aspect about her, like, you know, kind of put things down, and because if it's not really science, you know, why bother, then all that, you know, try to dismiss these things and close off any opportunity, close off any suggestion, anything has to do with any otherworldly say otherworldly conjectures or hypotheses whatsoever. They don't even dare think anything beyond what the universe or nature itself and stuff like that. But science cannot be separated from philosophy. It can't be separated from philosophy. As a matter of fact, the whole, to define science, philosophy is what is actually define what science is and everything. The scientific what makes science is a philosophical explanation. Like, for instance, science deals with what is repeatable, tentative. They don't speak with absolute. They don't use absolute knowledge, absolutist knowledge. It must be this and so on. They kind of use probabilistic wording of phrases, and science is also based upon observation. It's what you see. You know, we don't go beyond what is observed, and even though they say that they go beyond what is observed many times. The Higgs boson, that particle that they call the God particle, they didn't. It was mathematically predicted. They didn't see anything until a particle accelerator. They claim they want to show some transitory aspect of it. Evidence some very obscure nebulous aspect of it, and so on. But it was not seen before. Mathematical, the language of the universe is mathematics. It's all mathematics. To her, free will is an oxymoron to her. It's an illusion. Remember, this lady is an atheist, so everything about what she talks about is going to be interpreted within her atheistic worldview, a frame of reference. She doesn't believe in God. She went to church with her friends and say, well, I can't come to. She might love how people carry out religious ceremony and the whole expression of religiosity and stuff like that. But when we come on to there's an eternal being, God, and stuff like that, she can't come to herself. She can't come to the fact that there's such a being. And so she's a staunch radical atheist, and everything just this massive entity that they call the universe, this is what she worship. The incense of devotion, or incense of zeal, meticulous effort and brain power to come up with different way to explain what you observe. This is what you burn to this deity. This is our God. This is our life. This is everything. Before she here she breathed. This is everything to her, the universe and the universe itself. And don't try to screech it. Don't try to ever climb over to peak beyond, because there is no beyond the universe. She to me, man, she's not a brilliant lady. She's a physicist, but she has some serious belief, man. Some serious absurd belief. And I'm going to use some of J.P. Moreland's argumentation to show you how they contradict themselves all the while. You know, since the James Webb telescope they make to go into the universe and to search the universe to confirm the secular belief, this I think 10 billion it costs to make this James Webb telescope, and it's the information that is gathering and sending back to these scientists is something more befitting to creationism, not evolutionism. Creationism, and not atheism, but creationism. It contradicting almost everything the scientists predicted and hypothesized and all of these things. This telescope is overturning the whole scientific community and leave them puzzled and don't what's happening and stuff like that. There was a science said, out of all of the things that we know for sure, for 100% sure, it's just 5%. 5%, and yet scientists is so arrogant. At least sometimes you see them on TV sit down on top because they consider the knowledge keeper of the universe. You know, they are the brightest of the brightest in the world. Consider them as that. So no other discipline, every other discipline, and people of other discipline is not considered brilliant as these guys. But when you sit down and listen how they talk, like Brian Greene, this kind of have this hair of arrogance. They talk as if they're really certain and know exactly that's what they're saying is 100% true. That's how they talk. It's not that the universe will live up to our imagination, but whether or not our imagination will live up to the universe. Every scientist should keep that in mind. Every scientist should keep that in mind, because the universe is even too complex beyond their own little pea brain. Even the universe, that's why they come up with all kind of, now they're talking about quantum mechanics and all the quantum event and all of these things, and they have no clue, because the one that were instrumental in it said nobody can explain it. But some scientists don't like that like Sean Carroll. He doesn't like when scientists say they can't. He just believes that there's always hope. There's one day we're going to find this missing ingredient that explain what you cannot explain now. So listen to what my great friend J.P. Morgan said. For one thing, the statement, only what can be known by science or quantified and empirically tested is rational and true. Let me read that again. Only, for one thing, the statement, only what can be known by science or quantified or empirically tested is rational and true. If it can't be rationally tested, empirically tested, or quantified, it is not true. But it is a self-refuting statement. This statement itself is not a statement of science. It is a philosophical statement about science. How can this statement itself be quantified and empirically tested? It can't. It cannot even be seen. And if it cannot, then by the statement own standard, it cannot itself be true or rationally held. This is the kind of conundrum these scientists find themselves when they pontificate like that. Another way of putting this is to say that the aims, methodologies, and the presuppositions of science cannot be validated by science. One cannot turn to science to justify science, any more than one can pull oneself up by his own bootstrap. The validation of science is a philosophical issue, not a scientific one, and any claim to the contrary will be a self-refuting philosophical claim. Now, there is so much. You see, whenever we touch these topics, man, these topics are so deep and profound, and so much involved in these when you're dealing with science and philosophy. A lot. You have so many things that science cannot account for. Mathematics, abstract entities like numbers, my own self, my own subjective experience, you know, we dream, your dreams, your own thoughts. Science cannot account for none of these things. And so, how do you account for these metaphysical entities? How do science account for these things? Like for this lady, these things, how she can account for these things? Because these things are outer-worldly, metaphysical entities. They're above the world of science. They're above the world of science. And let me, for instance, several things exist and cannot be seen. The great majority of thinkers in history of Western thought have embraced one or more of these non-empirical entities: values, proposition, numbers, sets, persons, one's own thoughts, the laws of logic. For example, I know that my own thought exists, but I have never seen one of them. But if I can believe in only what I can see, then I must deny the existence of my thought and try to reduce them to physical entities. Now, this lady, this is what this lady would do: try to reduce them to physical entities, or observable behavior. So she would come up with some kind of scientific theory to try to explain these things, To date, all such reductions have failed, and the best explanation for my mental life is to embrace the existence of non-physical entities called thoughts, which can be in my mind. The history of philosophy is filled with the existence of non-empirical entities and has not sufficed in arguing. And it has not sufficed in arguing against them to simply point out their non-empirical nature. Such a strategy is question begging. The last point leads to a third objection to the view that one can believe something exists only if it can be sensed. This view comes into category fallacy. The category fallacy is when they want to take one thing from one category that doesn't belong to the next category and put it there. A categorical fallacy is a fallacy of assigning something a property which applies to one object of another category. For example, it is a category fallacy to state the color of the note C, because you know the note, this musical note C, cannot be talked about in terms of red, yellow, or stuff like that. It can't. Sounds are not color. Sounds are not color. You can speak about them in that kind of category. And if you do so, you commit in what is called a category mistake. Similar, it is a category fallacy to fault colors for not having smell. Universal for not being located at only one place, like the redness. Redness is all over. It's a universal essence. It's all over. And God for not being empirical entity. Right? God cannot be seen with our eyes. He's God, is spirit. God, if he exists at all, is by definition in Orthodox Christianity an infinite spirit. It is not a part of nature. It is not a part of the nature of spirit to be visible. Empirically, as a material object would be. It is a category fallacy to ascribe sense qualities to God or fault him for not being visible. I don't believe in God because I can't see him. This is faulting God, an invisible spirit, for not being a visible object. For some object which cannot be some objects which can be partly visible are not completely visible. If one believes in only what he can see, then he cannot believe in the existence of the whole physical object. We see only the surfaces of objects. We do not see the whole three-dimensional object in their entirety. What does it mean by that? Even though you look upon a apple, you take an apple and eat it every day. Even though you look upon an apple, man, you don't see everything about that apple. At the fundamental level of the apple is what you call microscopic, submicroscopic particles. I'll go as far as to saying string would vibrate. At a macroscopic level, the apple is something that I can hold. And I can eat it and it tastes sweet. But on a microscopic, a submicroscopic level, a super microscopic level, at the fundamental molecular structure of that apple, I can't see anything. Anything. So none of us see any physical object in its entirety. So then if you say, so then what about the apple? You don't believe what you can't see, but you can't see all the apple, right? Even there, you take these things to the logical conclusion. No physical being, you can say the macroscopic scale of these things. We can see these things, and these are solid things, but at a molecular level, these things are vibrating like this. Come to this physicist, they're vibrating. Bands of energy vibrating. So anything, when it comes into the Christian worldview, it is a only worldview in the world that makes sense of the world, because it gives us our rationality. We have to trust what our reasoning tells us. We have to trust our mind. We have to trust our eyes, what it sees. And they're very proficient because God made them so. We trust them. If we don't trust them, then how can we do anything? How can science be such a trustworthy thing where we invest so many things? If we don't trust any of these, the law of logic, we need the law of logic. But this law of logic the laws of logic are not susceptible to scientific empirical observation. It cannot be seen. So then, but we use them every day. And where do these laws come from? Wait. You're telling me that the brain produces these things? The matter for brain, the neural network in our brain, the neurons in our brain, the dura mater in our brain, these different intricate, the synapses and all of these. You're telling me that this is what produces the laws of logic, rationality, intelligence, numbers in my head, thought, ideation, how my ideas come about, how I generate them in my mind. Are you telling me all of these things come out of matter itself? We are just matter in motion. There's nothing more fundamental to us than just being matter. Nothing. No soul, no spirit. And all of these non-empirical entities, scientists who claim that these things doesn't exist, have to use them in order to do science. Where did they come from? Since we were created in the image of God, God is a spirit. The laws of logic is grounded in God. Rationality is grounded in God. Intelligibility, the universe is intelligible. And this lady even would want to even suggest that the universe is alive. The universe is not intelligent. We are intelligent. The scientists are intelligent, but the universe is just intelligible. God created the universe and we can apprehend the universe. We can, it's like your brain, your intelligence, does it in sync with the universe, and we can draw a conclusion, we can hypothesize, we can, make sense of it, because the universe, it came from a rational mind. God himself. The universe was created with laws that God used to uphold these created entity, this massive created entity. So, science itself, the tool of science cannot account for itself. what gives scientists a defining characteristic is philosophy, not science itself, because science power would never, because science does all they're interested in what they can see. And even things that they can see, they can't explain. A lot of things they see, they can't explain it. It's beyond physics. That's why a lot of people don't believe in even the resurrection is one of the most attested facts in the world. And scientists prove that dead person don't, the physics will tell you, Mr. Christian man, that when a person dies, he's dead. He's forever gone. He will never get up. Look around you. Look around you. And all these cemeteries, dead body in there, we have never seen anyone risen from the dead. So the resurrection of Jesus must be ludicrous. And in spite of all the overwhelming evidence, biblical and outside of the biblical realm, there are other writers that support that, and even archaeological finding and all kind of stuff that tells you that the resurrection happened. Jesus himself resurrected from the dead. He's alive today. Because you know what? God himself that made that an exception. He's in charge. It is his laws, his universe, and he has the right at any time to overrule them. Oh, dare who violate the laws of nature? Dare, oh, dare not. Who dare not violate the law of nature? Oh, and who dare you? You Mr. Clay man, stand up to the potter with your vile rhetorics and arrogance. This universe doesn't belong to you. Where were you when God created all of these things? Where were you? When he came on the scene and God gave you a little mind to do some calculation, and all of a sudden you become the guardian of the universe. The knowledge keeper of the universe. If you really want to know what the universe is all about, people, come right towards the physicist. Come right towards the cosmologist, the astrophysicist. We will explain things to you. Let me explain and tell you how the universe came to be. 15 billion years ago, there was a massive explosion from a very tiny dot, almost the size of the full stop at the end of a sentence. It explode, and everything come to be. And you and I, the universe created us. After billions of years, you know. So we are the product of the universe. We are made of stardust. So we are the children. We are the brain children of the universe. That's what they say. That's why the scientists will have I don't know, have certain kind of risibility about it, a certain funniness. I don't know if it was trying to be funny or just straight out. Based on who he was, he was an atheist scientist too. So he was mocking God. He was mocking the cross. He was mocking Jesus, saying that don't worry about any atonement of Jesus Christ. Christ didn't die for you. Be happy that the universe died for you. The stars, you were made of stars, and the stars die every day. And even though there is no scientific evidence of any star, none of these guys ever seen a star die. None of these guys ever seen even a star form. It's all sheer speculation. But nonetheless, I am here because some stars in the galaxy died for me. because I'm made up of stardust. And all of you people out there, you owe your life to the universe. You don't owe your life to any non-empirical being outside the universe. Don't believe that nonsense by these theologians and these philosophers. I'm telling you, we are the knowledge keeper of the universe. Let me tell you, we were created by the universe from stardust. These guys are real. These guys are funny, man. They're funny. I hope you like this. I hope you like these videos, and I hope you share and tell it to your friend, tell it to your mother, tell it to your cousin, tell it to your aunt. Come, let us reason together. Come, let us reason together, man. Let us have some serious discussion, man, and let us get in down, you know, expand your knowledge. Let us, come on, man. Get into some serious knowledge about the Christian faith and about our own God who created all things and how He created all things. We thought we're not gonna put down these physicists and scientists in some aspect, you know, because they give us a lot of knowledge about how things work, nonetheless, and tell us about a lot of these atomic particles and stuff like that. You know, but when it comes on to a lot of other things, that even when it comes face to face with the true and living God, man, they have no idea what they're talking about. And many of them come face to face with this God, and they have to bow and say, yes, there has to be. The evidence is there. The universe speaks of a creator, man. The Bible tells you that by observing it, to say they is the divine nature and eternal power revealed in it. Thank you. Any question, any opposition, comments, let me know. Let me know, man. Let me know what you're thinking. When you listen to what I'm saying, let me know what's going through your mind. So leave a comment whenever you want, whenever you can, and let me know, and subscribe. Subscribe, man. It's all about knowledge. It's all about the God who gave us this knowledge. He is the ground of all truth, all wisdom and knowledge. Keep that in mind. That's the God in whom we worship. Thank you. Out.